What is up, everybody? What's up, everyone? This is a video I wanted to talk about. I know I talked about the computers, the old YouTube and all. I miss the old YouTube. Well, today, I do want to talk about this. I'm willing to talk about this because I'm sure everybody in our generation, we all miss the 90s. Man, I can go on and on and on, talk about all the things about the 90s and how it was a good decade and a good year and all the stuff that like the younger generations, like this generation Z and all of them don't know what it was like in the 90s. And it was a totally different time and a totally different thing. Now, I'm going to try my best to explain what it was like living in the 90s. The 90s were the time that things were more outgoing, more outdoing. Like nowadays, people communicate by phones and text and technologies and websites. And back then, we had to go to stores and meetups and we met up with people. We did that. We did this. But this is really, but yeah, people went to each other's houses to play video games and to do all that. You know, everybody's playing Fortnite online or people are playing online video games. You had to go to a person's house, call them up and say, hey, are you playing a video game? Yeah. Well, can we go over to your house and play a video game? That was the cool thing about the 90s. Now, everybody just goes, hey, well, to play a video game, I'll meet you online in about maybe like 1 hour. And that was it. So yeah, that's another thing. Let's talk about the cartoon shows of the 90s. Oh my lord. We had some really good cartoons back in the day. And I can literally think of every cartoon that we had back in the 90s. We had, well, of course we had SpongeBob, the old SpongeBob from 1999. We had Rugrats, Doug, Rocko's Modern Life, Ren and Stimpy. Well, we had Arthur. Arthur was a very good show back in the day and back in the early 90s. We had the Magic School Bus, good show. I remember every teacher used to play that. Teacher used to play that on the TV nonstop. And Cartoon Network had some really good shows back in the day. They had the old Tom and Jerry's that were way better than the new Tom and Jerry friend. Well, they had Tom and Jerry Kids, but the old Tom and Jerry's from the 50s and the 60s were the better ones. And I grew up with that kind of stuff. But yeah, cartoons were really fun back then. They had episodes that made us laugh when we were kids. We had this is in the early 2000s. We had one episode of Ed, Ed, Eddie. That show was awesome. The show was so funny that I could watch every episode of that show and laugh. And laugh about it. And the show literally showed you what was it like growing up in the 90s or the early 2000s. Things were funny back then. I mean, I can imagine just sitting there talking about something funny. Again, the horse, remember them horse videos that I did back in the day where I did those horse videos? I have memories and memories and memories of going to that horse farm. Well, I think it was the early 2000s or early 1999, early 99. I think it was the early 99s. It was still the 90s. But I remember going to that farm and my random friend will be on the horse saying some random joke and we will laugh about it. That was the one thing about the 90s we all cherished, because what I'm trying to say is, the thing I'm saying about the 90s is, these times go by so quickly. Just look at 2020. It was a dumpster fire. It was a total dumpster fire. We thought it was going to be nice. But then once the 2000s hit, it was fine. But then once we hit 2020, that sort of thing went over the edge. I think. I don't really know what's going to happen in the future. Don't get me wrong. I don't know. But like I said, the 90s were a good time. And I just remember me and my friends, we would walk to the horse field. We would walk these horses. The horse would do something funny, and we just laugh about it. We would laugh about it, and we will remember this for the rest of our lives. But here's the thing. When you get older, it's just like, man, you want to go back in time and see those good days again. You got those old times, they just go away like this. Like that. And it's crazy. But like I said, it's very, very hard to tell you. But anyway. But speaking of the 90s, we have also the movies. Woo! The movies. Well, what you're looking at right here is Dragonheart. Dragonheart was a really good film. Dragonheart was my favorite film back in the 90s. Another good film in the early 2000s was Spirit. Spirit, made by Shrek the Film. Really good film. If you were willing to see a film back in the early 2000s, or the early 2000s, I think this movie came out in 1999. Look it up. I really don't know. But Spirit was a good film back in the day. Really good animation. Really, I think Spirit was one of the best films that had good animation. But I think Spirit was the last film to do good animation. I remember when I went to horseback, they would pop this in the VHS player, we would watch it, and we just laugh. We would laugh because the spirit will walk, the spirit, in the beginning of the film, Spirit will walk with a little ice cube in his teeth, going, do, 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 do. And that was it. We laugh. But that was the thing about the 90s. We all cherished. And people don't get that anymore, you know? It's like the 90s was like a culture where people were more like around, and it was like one of those times, you know? Kids were outside doing stuff. They were outside, going outside, playing ball. Like literally, we would make ramps in the street. We would jump ramps when we were kids and do tricks on our bikes. Summertime was a good time because kids were outside doing stuff. Now, I guess people just, when it gets really high outside, people just go inside and play video games all the time. Or play Fortnite. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's okay to play video games, but when it's really nice outside, go outside, ride your bike, do something fun. Because, you know, the 90s were the best. The reason I'm saying the 90s were the best and the early 2000s, they were awesome, they were fun. But yes, I'm getting off track here, but the movies, the TV shows, they were awesome. For Dragonheart. I grew up with Dragonheart when I was a kid, and Dragonheart was one of my favorite films back in the day. And that movie was awesome. Because the reason I liked it is because, number one, the animation for Dragonheart was spot on. The CGI that makes him look real, the dragon, CGI, man, look good. And the people that made Dragonheart, they also did the film for Um, what was it? Jurassic Park. Heck, Jurassic Park was a really good film back in the day, and it was really good. But anyway, let me pull. But yeah, it's just crazy. Like I said, things fly, things change, and it's too quickly. You gotta think, the 90s were one of those days where it was more relaxing and more fun. Kids were outside playing ball. Things were way different. The times were totally different back in those days. And people cherished it for what we were. Heck, when the horse farm, we would go out and do stuff with my friends, and we would do stuff. But yeah, not the horse farm, but when we were kids, we used to ride bikes, ride scooters. We would build forts with my friends. We didn't have a club. We didn't have tree houses. We couldn't build a tree house because we couldn't do that. But back then, we built forts. We would go to people. We would actually go to one of my friends' houses, and we would build a fort, like a clubhouse. And I remember the clubhouse was called. It was called XL. The reason it was called XL because Danimals XL yogurt. It was a commercial, Danimals XL yogurt. I don't know why we call it that. It was just a funny thing that we did back in the day. And everything was different. Honestly, it was a great time. And there was some good things, the bad things of the 90s. I mean, things were different. And honestly, I could think of multiple things about the 90s and what it was like. School was different in the 90s. School was definitely different in the 90s. Your friends were always there for you, and people didn't judge you what you were. People didn't make fun of you like you did. I mean, yes, people did make fun of you, but it wasn't as bad. Nowadays, with social media and all, it's more. I can't really explain nowadays, but the 90s were a great time. And if I was to be able to go back in a time machine, I would love to go back to the 90s and see it all again. And, I mean, I'm not saying the 2020s is going to be bad, but it started bad. But we thought that this year was going to be a really good year. The decade was going to start like a boom and bang. But like I said, I just don't know. I just don't know. But those years, it was just one of those years that you don't know. But like I said, the 90s were a very good year for everything. But like I said, but what I'm saying is Generation Z or Generation Y, I'm not good at saying that. Cherish those memories because you don't know when they're going to be gone. But like I said, those memories can be gone. And when I was in the 90s, I thought that the days were going to go slow. They didn't go slow. They went fast. But yeah. But like I said, I gotta wrap this video up. But like I said, I cherish your memories because the 90s go fast. And honestly, if you're a kid, enjoy your memories of you living your time. Enjoy it. Slow down and enjoy it. But that's all I wanted to say about the 90s. And that's it. Peace out. I guess I'll see you next video. Peace out. Peace.